Agencies have a new opportunity to get help with modernizing their HR functions. A new HR Shared Services Center from the Office of Personnel Management launched this week. If agencies opt into OPM's offer for a fee, they'll get access to a suite of IT tools to streamline their human capital management capabilities. Here with more details is Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for being here.
Nice to be with you, Terry.
All right, what is OPM offering through its new HR Shared Services Center?
So this is an opportunity that is optional for agencies, and what they would have to do is enter an interagency agreement with OPM. And if they do that, after some onboarding, they'll be able to access various modernization tools for managing things like employee benefits, onboarding, payroll, and performance, as well as more strategic offerings like how to, manage workforce planning and human capital strategy. So it really just covers a whole range of things. There's also going to be tools that agencies can look at for better modernizing how they manage employee compensation, leave, recruitment and retention, time and attendance. So it really just runs the board here.
Folks with long memories might think this feels a little familiar. What does OPM say about why it's launching this initiative now?
So what they're doing for this one is they essentially say that this is going to fold into President Trump's larger plans of eliminating inefficiencies and duplications in federal services. So the idea here is to streamline things, specifically in HR functions at agencies. OPM, in a memo that it released this week explaining things in more detail, talked about how agencies through this initiative would be able to reduce fragmentation in their HR management tools, and it would also shift some administrative type of work away from HR staff so that they can focus on other areas of their jobs and put more time towards that. They also say this is going to help with saving money and improving what they call HR outcomes across federal agencies. But, one other thing that I think is interesting in the timing here too, and something that OPM referenced in its memo, is that there has been a significant decrease in the HR workforce over the past year because of the Trump administration's broader staffing reduction efforts. We've seen about 7,600 HR managers leave their jobs since Trump's second term began, and that makes it one of the top 10 federal positions that has seen staffing losses this year. So, I think that is notable too. And the way that OPM kind of brought that back around was simply to say that, having these tools streamlined and modernized is going to address the staffing reductions there.
There are some other shared services for HR already in existence. How are those working now, and what does this initiative mean for them?
There are a lot of other similar efforts already in existence, yes, as you said. One of them is called the Quality Service Management Office. There's an HR, quote, QSMO, if you want to use the acronym there. And essentially what that does is the same thing where you have shared services and various offerings for HR management tools that agencies can access, again, if they sign one of these agreements. There are other ones similar from the National Finance Center, Interior Business Center, and Defense Finance and Accounting Service. And all of those are agency payroll providers, but they also similarly offer HR shared services to agencies. So there's, various other options that agencies already have for accessing some of these things. And, these sorts of efforts stretch back at least the last 20 years for, various presidential administrations trying to fix some of the more cumbersome processes in federal HR.
Have there been any interest statements yet from agencies who want to move into OPM's program, and will they come off of one of these other shared services providers to do it?
So what we see in OPM's new memo on this is that there are so far 8 either agencies or components that are going to be part of this initial rollout of OPM's program. So that includes the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, the VA's Inspector General Office, the Office of Government Ethics, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and a couple of others there. So, what we're going to see from them is that it's going to take about 6 months to onboard their current HR processes to be able to, move them over to some of the shared services that OPM is offering. It's not clear if they're already involved in other HR shared services centers. It might be the case that this is just something they're starting for the first time, but it probably depends on the agency there. And I think OPM is hoping or expecting more agencies to join this new office of theirs in the coming months.
OPM itself wasn't unaffected by those staffing drawdowns. Do they have the capacity to run this, or is that something they're going to have to build?
OPM did lose about 1/3 of its entire staff, about 1,000 employees, since President Trump took office. So that's throughout 2025. We've seen very significant staffing reductions within OPM. It's not clear how many of those are specifically in those HR or those kind of technology areas of OPM, but there was at least some reduction there. OPM has said that a lot of its staffing losses were due to either retirements or the deferred resignation program. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out and what OPM's capacity will be, especially if you get a lot of agencies interested in these services.
Well, how does this initiative connect with some of the other modernization initiatives that OPM has rolled out recently?
This is one piece of a broader effort from the Trump administration at OPM and what it's calling Federal HR 2.0. So the other significant, effort that we've seen under that initiative is to streamline and consolidate agencies' HR platforms. So right now across government, there are 119 different HR systems that various agencies are using, and OPM, and this is something that for years it's been trying to do, is trying to get all agencies onto just one system, which would of course make things a lot easier for HR staff and for employees transferring between agencies. It's not something that, despite years of effort, has really taken off, but OPM did recently, it's looking to do a contract to create that HR system, and it could be valued at up to $1 billion. So it's going to be a pretty significant shift if that does take place. They're looking to have this roll out by 2027. Not clear if they're going to meet that timeline, but it's something that has been a priority for the agency as well.
So what will you be watching over the next few months to see how these pieces come together?
It'll be interesting to see, especially how this is going to impact HR employees and their workloads. There's, I'm assuming, going to be some sort of training or onboarding involved to get them up to speed on everything, but also just to see how this is going to work between different agencies. For example, if you have employees who move around between them, that could be something that might be helped by a consolidated system. So it'll, I think it'll take time for these things to develop, but definitely interesting to watch here.
That's Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Terry.
You can find her exclusive story at federalnewsnetwork.com.